Hello everyone, welcome back to Wojo Homestead. I'm Eric, and I think that this is going to be a bee video, meaning a bee related video. So at the time of this filming, it's the middle of July, and we haven't seen any substantial rain here in Michigan, at least our part of Michigan, for probably a solid month. So everything is dry, and it's in total contrast to how our spring was. We didn't have like a dry day between March and May. It was just constantly wet. So this is polar opposite. So any rain we could get is always it's always welcome. So it's been a really busy summer so far. On top of all of our bees, and then we've got our chickens, and our goats are getting bigger, and our garden is going nuts right now. Even despite the hot weather, it's still producing really good. We're just about to start picking potatoes. I picked a whole bunch of garlic the other day. But on top of all of that, the other big news in my life is that I started a new job this summer. It's kind of been the culmination of the last couple years of changes, because probably the one thing that's been constant over the past couple years has been change. Everything that's happened since 2020, 2021, now we're into halfway through 2022, everyone's life changed, at least in some way. And for me, it was career. I went from doing engineering work and manufacturing to being an electrical apprentice. So going from an office setting, degreed engineer, to the trades. And this past month, I ended up accepting an apprenticeship with our local union, which is a 5-year apprenticeship to be an inside wireman. And the reason why I bring this up is because I suck. I'm a new apprentice. There isn't a whole lot that I do right now that anybody with experience is probably going to say is really good. With that in mind, I wanted to just take a minute before we get on with the honey extraction to just try to send out a word of encouragement to those of you who are trying to do something new right now. Whether it's homesteading or gardening or beekeeping or starting a new career or thinking about starting a new career, you have to be willing to suck at it in order to become good at it later on. And that's the situation that I find myself in right now. I'm hoping that in 5 years, when the apprenticeship is done, that I will suck less and be reasonably competent at my job. And how that plays into our homesteading is that this year, some of you may know, we have a video already on this, that this year was the first year that our Delawares are going nuts behind the camera. Anyway, this year was the first year that we managed to keep our bees alive all the way through the winter time. We've been keeping bees for 7 years and never been able to make it happen. Michigan winters can be fickle. They can get really cold, and then they can get really some warm spells. It's all over the place. And this year we managed to get bees to survive. And as a result, we actually have some honey that we can extract this year. In previous years, our hives never did well enough because we were starting completely from scratch on all of them. And they just never did that well. So this year, I was able to pull off a full super of beautiful, clean honey. And we're going to get to extract that now. And we probably will get about 40 pounds worth of honey out of it. We'll see when we'll weigh it at the end of the video. But it took us 7 years to get to that point. And just like with the rest of our homesteading, this year was the first year that we did our Delaware chickens. We've done chickens before, but never Delawares. And it's a learning process. Our gardening is a learning process. And there's a lot of times where we think to ourselves, man, you know, we're not very good at this. Even though we've been doing it for years and years and years. And every once in a while, we get a little ray of hope that maybe what we're doing is getting somewhere. Maybe what we're doing is making some progress. And I just wanted to put a quick word of encouragement out to all of you out there that are trying to do something new with your life, even if it's not like homestead related, that just be willing to suck at it for a while. It's okay to suck at it, just as long as you get better. Learn from your mistakes. Try to listen more than you speak. Try to find somebody who knows what they're doing and learn from them if you can. Of course, there's always YouTube videos, right? So you can just kind of muddle through it with the rest of us. Anyway, enough of me rambling. Let's get on with the honey extraction. Oh, God. Oh, that is not light. That is about 40 or 50 pounds worth of honey. It's just one super. This is a medium box, so they get bigger and they get smaller than this box. Alright. So each box contains 10 of these frames. Each frame has two sides to it. What we're going to do is we're going to decap each frame, and then we're going to load it into our honey extractor we've got behind us. Now, in previous videos that we did, we crushed up the honeycomb to extract the honey, and that we could do that again, but this time we decided that we're going to use our extractor because we're going to try to save the honeycomb so that we can give it back to the bees, give them a little bit of a head start so they don't have to start from just a bare foundation like what they have been. So first step, we need to decap the honeycomb. So this is, what would you call it, a decapping comb? Basically it looks like a hairbrush, but it's got a lot of very sharp metal tines on it that are spaced about the same distance apart as the honeycomb. So we're going to use this to break all the comb. There you go. And we're just taking the very top layer off. Like that. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll get better at this because we've got to do it 20 times.
They say one bee's life's work is like, what, 2 teaspoons of honey?
Something like that. It's
enough to fit in, what, maybe a dozen cells of the honeycomb.
Yeah, imagine your whole life's work. You could lay it all out and it would fit into a teaspoon.
So when the bees fill up these individual cells, they fan it off and evaporate some of the moisture out of it, and then they do what's called capping it, which is put the little wax layer on top, and that keeps it from evaporating any further. And we're just removing the caps so that we can use centripetal force to take the honey out of each little cell without ruining the structure of the honeycomb.
Yep, trying to be as non-destructive as possible. Alright.
Now we just need 3 more.
So, we load 4 at a time, and then we're going to give it a spin. Look on the outside of there. Let's check and see how empty they are.
So the honey is being flung off of here
Oh, there's still
through,
there's still tons
through
of
the mesh and down the sides of this barrel, and it's accumulating at the bottom, but got more to do. Yeah, the honeycomb's being emptied out. You can see on the edges here, it's looking more and more empty. Not quite there yet. They do make electric extractors, but this is a manual one, and this was a hand-me-down from my aunt and uncle. And honestly, I mean, it works just fine.
mostly empty now. And then on the inside, compare it to full. So now, I'm going to check the other ones to make sure that they're empty. And if they are, we're going to flip all 4 of them so that the other side is facing outward. And this is a dirty process. You get honey on your hands, but there are worse things you could get on your hands around here.
This probably doesn't get as much honey out as the crushing strain, but it gives you an advantage, or gives the bees an advantage, in that they don't have to rebuild all that wax.
Yeah, as you can see, it doesn't perfectly preserve the entire comb, but at least it gives them something to start with. Now that we've flipped it to side B, let's press play. Alright, so we got both sides done, and it's significantly lighter now. Honey is pretty heavy, it's heavier than water, so now we have to do 4 more to fit in here, a total of 10, so we are not quite halfway through yet. The hope is that we can reclaim some of the caps.
Yeah, that'll make a couple bars of beeswax after I render it down. It's so clean already, though. Barely needs to be cleaned. So something we haven't mentioned yet is that we have some new babies in the brooder. We have some broad-breasted turkey poults, and they are really just lovely animals. They're so chill compared to chickens or guineas or ducks. We had 12 of them, but 5 of them died early on, right after shipping from stress. But the remaining 7 seem to be doing really well. They're growing so quickly. So they're almost ready to go outside. We're just waiting for them to feather up a little bit more. They can fit through the poultry fence that we have, so we're giving them a little bit more time to grow. So these guys should be ready for the fall turkey harvest, which we'll probably do early November. That should give them enough time.
Looks like the bees sealed in a single ant when they were putting the wax on.
Poor ant.
Yeah, got stuck in the fridge. Well, that's a big one, huh? So what the deal with this one was is this was on the outside of the box. And sometimes what happens if there's a little bit of extra space on the sides of the box, the bees try to fill it in. This is kind of illustrates the difference between having too much bee space and having enough bee space. The other side is perfectly flat. So this is with proper bee space. This is with too much bee space.
What's bee space?
Bee space is the little gap that we put between the frames. It's just big enough for bees to go between. So we don't get to do this very often, but since we have the extra thickness here, we're going to try to just cut off the top here and kind of get a whole cut comb, you know, natural comb. Isn't that pretty?
There's probably still some comb under there too.
Oh yeah, I'm still going to be able to extract that, definitely. One more piece. Big one to cap it off. Alright, so we got all 10 frames extracted, and we even got some cut comb honey out of it, which we weren't expecting. So now we got to empty the extractor, and we get to see the fruits of our labors. Moment of truth. Alright.
Wow.
Would you look at that? So this honey is a lot lighter than we have gotten in the past. Normally we're harvesting in the fall, sometime in the September, October range, because normally that's the only time we've had enough honey to actually collect. And this year we've got some of the summer honey, I guess, so I don't know what they're eating, but it's a lot lighter.
And this is unfiltered honey. Now, this bucket here has, what do you call that, a valve?
Yep, the same valve that's on the bottom of the extractor.
Of its own. So we're just storing this unfiltered, and we can always filter it later, but this honey honestly is really clean. 27.88, so almost 28 pounds of honey. So that bucket's like half full, a little more than half. plus however much that weighs. So we probably have almost 30 pounds of honey, wouldn't you say?